We are doing phenomenally well. This is the greatest economy we've ever had.
In addition to more expensive childcare costs, higher prices pretty much across the board, much bigger car payments.
Our energy costs are way down. Our groceries are way down. Everything is way down.
I just can't see how people with a normal job making $15 an hour can afford an apartment without multiple roommates.
The prices of homes has escalated over the last few decades much faster than actual incomes.
500,000 people in the U.S. living in RVs full time.
I don't want to hear about the affordability because right now we're much less.
The American people have turned against you, Mr. President. You've gone from leading by 9 points in inflation to being 26 points underwater. You're doing something very wrong in the minds of the American public.
Over the course of the year, they might make enough money to pay for basic living expenses and cover their bills. But if one major thing happens, then they can get behind.
Student loans weren't really a thing for baby boomers.
If she voted for you 3 different times, but she is not happy about how her prices have not come down. I guess what do you say to Regina and people like her?
Well, I do say this. Beef we have to get down. I think of groceries. You know, it's an old-fashioned word, but it's a beautiful word. Beef we have to get down, but we've got prices way down.
3 in 4 Americans, 75% overall, who say Trump's not paying enough attention to lowering costs.
I think it'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million.
President Trump held a lavish Great Gatsby Halloween party at Mar-a-Lago just hours before the estimated 42 million people lost SNAP benefits.
He threw another extravagant party at Mar-a-Lago for his celebrity friends and loyal supporters, featuring opera performances, ice sculptures, and a lavish dinner, all while taking steps to cut benefits for the most vulnerable.
Even among Republicans, that solid Republican base who oftentimes approves of Trump's job by 85, 90%, 57% of them say that Trump's not paying enough attention to lowering costs.
I put together that compilation to demonstrate how, perhaps for the first time ever, Trump isn't able to brainwash people and construct this false reality because Americans have actual firsthand experience with the affordability crisis that he's trying to deny. And him denying this affordability crisis and not trying to address it in any meaningful way is destroying his presidency. He's hemorrhaging support among Latino voters, in part because he hasn't delivered on the affordability crisis like he promised, and he's not helping himself by throwing lavish parties and chumming it up with corporate executives and Wall Street CEOs while ignoring the concerns of working class Americans. And he's even starting to lose the support of some evangelicals and Catholics who just don't want to be associated with his Gestapo-like mass deportation policies. And if all of this wasn't already bad enough, shockingly, some of his core supporters, we're talking about the MAGA diehards, are starting to turn on him, in particular because of comments like this.
Does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles.
Now, what he said there is troubling, even if you're not a xenophobic piece of shit, because he's essentially insulting Americans by saying that they're not talented enough to do these jobs when they can do these jobs. It's just that you have no interest in training them to do said jobs because that require you to invest in trade schools and public education, which Republicans don't want to do. One, because if more people learn critical thinking skills, there'd be less Republican voters. And two, because capitalists would rather import foreign laborers because they're easier to abuse and exploit. But I agree that America should try to attract the most talented people in the world as well. However, nobody's going to want to come here if they're afraid of being rounded up by his fascist fucking Gestapo. But putting aside my issues with his comments, here's what some of his biggest dick riders had to say in response to what he said there. Matt Moore said, "I'm one of the largest pro-Trump commentators in the nation. I get tens of millions of views every single month talking about Trump's America First agenda. agenda. And right now, I'm absolutely fucking beyond pissed that tonight, as a justification for H-1B visas, Trump said that Americans don't have talent. Absolutely unreal. Mike Cernovich says Trump broke everyone's heart with this line about the American workforce and H-1Bs. Kevin Bass says Trump hates America and Americans. This is the only explanation I could come up with for this pattern of behavior. He wants to import the third world to take Americans' jobs. Kongmin Lee says completely tone deaf. This is an utter betrayal of the entire base who voted to put America first. Indistinguishable from Vivek's H-1B crash out, calling Americans lazy and untalented. We don't have exceptional talent in America, really? Dominic Michael Trippi says this is absolutely pathetic. This week was an all-time low point, completely out of touch. And keep in mind, this is just a tiny fraction of the outrage that he sparked with those comments, but there are other MAGA diehards who are starting to grow disenchanted with him on other issues as well. The ongoing GOP civil war that we're seeing right now is a result of most of MAGA knowing that Trump's ship is sinking, and they're currently jockeying for supremacy in the post-Trump world that we're all about to enter relatively soon. Like, why do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene made her recent heel turn? Did she hit her head and suddenly become more reasonable? Like, did she get trapped in some sort of Freaky Friday-esque body swap with John Fetterman? No, she is making a political calculation. She sees the writing on the wall, and she wants to be there to pick up the pieces when Trump's regime falls apart. On top of that, there's a power struggle within the GOP between the Groyper Nazi types who've captured the hearts of young Republicans and the more establishment Republican types like Ben Shapiro who are trying to uphold the elitist Trumpian status quo. And this infighting would not be happening if there wasn't already widespread dissatisfaction with Trump in the first place. And it's happening because they smell blood in the water. And to make matters even worse, it is getting increasingly difficult for any conservative to defend Donald Trump because we are getting closer to the truth about him and Jeffrey Epstein, and it is not looking good, to put it mildly. And on that note, on Wednesday, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released emails where Jeffrey Epstein told Michael Wolff, of course Trump knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Now, in a different email from Epstein to Maxwell, he said, that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. And in another email, Epstein says, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-NY business people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip, which is a reference to Michael Cohen, his former fixer who did indeed flip. Now, in a separate email from Michael Wolff to Epstein, he's talking about the ways that Epstein can leverage the dirt that he has on Donald Trump during the 2016 election to his own benefit. But after these emails were released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, Republicans on the same committee decided to drop an additional 20,000 files. And I honestly do not know what their motivations were here. I mean, it's possible that they were doing this to try to defend Trump, maybe try to overwhelm reporters in a desperate attempt to distract from the worst revelations that Democrats were going to release. But I mean, there's already so much more incriminating things in the files that they released about Donald Trump that are coming out, like specifically the one about how he knows Donald Trump's dirty business at Jeffrey Epstein. Like, that came from the Republican drop. So I don't know what they're doing, because it doesn't seem like it's very beneficial to Trump if this was indeed an attempt to be a pro-Trump move. But I mean, they haven't done an about face, to be clear, because Donald Trump's administration literally held a meeting in the fucking Situation Room with Lauren Boebert in order to pressure her to withdraw her signature from Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna's discharge petition that would force a vote on the Epstein files in the House. Because now that the government is opening back up again and Adelita Grijalva is going to be the 218th vote after she's sworn in, if they can flip one of the three Republicans, Mace, Green, and Boebert, who signed onto that discharge petition, then they could stop it from passing. And by the time this video even hits YouTube, like, chances are you're going to see so many more revelations that could be even worse than the ones that I just talked about. But even if that's not the case, the emails the Democrats released are incriminating enough. They indicate that the president of the United States was allegedly aware of Epstein's sex trafficking ring, and even suggests that he participated in it and abused kids himself, allegedly. And even though MAGA loyalists are trying to deny this and defend him on Twitter, just like they did about the birthday letter, that he sent to Epstein that was later proven to be true, Trump's reputational fate has already been sealed, whether they want to admit that or not. And anyone still defending Trump at this late date will eventually be attacked for protecting an alleged pedophile. Full stop. So if you're a Republican with political ambitions and you know that this will one day be used against you in an attack ad, what do? Do you jeopardize your credibility for short-term gain and defend a pedophile potentially? Or do you take the temporary hit to your reputation so you can later brag about how you were one of the first to abandon Donald Trump? Decisions. And I should note that morality is not part of their calculation whatsoever. Like, they don't care about doing what's right or wrong. They care about what is going to benefit them the most politically. But Epstein is one of many nails in the eventual coffin of Trump's regime, because he's also violating international law by bombing boats in the Caribbean, and he's threatening to invade Nigeria over false claims of a Christian genocide. He also could be remembered as the president who oversaw a ban on hemp, which destroyed a multi-billion-dollar industry. He's cartoonishly corrupt and used the office of the presidency to rake in billions in personal wealth. And he's not just dumb and petulant and petty. He makes policy decisions literally based on superficial standards of beauty. Superficial standards of beauty, might I add, that he doesn't live up to himself. And I say this because, as the New Republic reports, President Neckpussy ordered immigration officials to deny visas to people for being obese. I guess he's apparently never looked in a mirror himself. But on top of that, I don't think it's too early to declare that he lost the trade war that he launched, with more countries buying from China now than they were before the trade war began. And to all of the MAGA dipshits who claim that this would hurt China more than the US, what do you have to say now? All I hear is crickets from you. See, because Donald Trump, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. China is playing chess while Trump is playing Candyland and slobbering all over the board like a fucking idiot. And worst of all, he is on track to rack up a higher body count than George W. Bush, if you can believe that. Not only because of the 50,000 Americans that'll die every single year because of the healthcare cuts that he made to finance tax cuts for the rich, but because he is gutting USAID, and it's already killed hundreds of thousands of people in countries like Sudan, specifically almost 200,000 adults and more than 400,000 children, with an average of 88 deaths per hour. And that's on top of the genocide that he's funding in Sudan by arming the UAE's military, who arms the RSF, which just committed a fucking massacre in El Fasher. They went into a maternity ward and they killed countless people. You can see the blood from outer space, literally. And we haven't even touched on the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza that he's complicit with, which is still occurring, by the way, in spite of the so-called ceasefire that he negotiated. So, like it or not, future history books will regard Donald Trump as one of the worst presidents and one of the most destructive forces in human history, who kneecapped what little progress we were making towards the fight against climate apocalypse at a crucial time. The question is when the rest of society will reach this inevitable conclusion. And I would argue that the answer is sooner rather than later. And he doesn't realize that most Americans, they can look past a lot of shit. They can look past the harm that he's causing to a lot of people so long as it doesn't affect them personally. We all know this. Americans are selfish. They'll excuse authoritarianism, genocide, and racism so long as the economy is doing well and their bellies are full. But Trump is starting to learn the lesson that every other dictator has had to learn the hard way throughout fucking history. Your grip on power will only last so long as the population feels comfortable. If you can't keep them fed or distracted enough to realize that they're going hungry, that is when shit hits the fan. And we've officially entered the phase in Trump's autocratic reign where shit is now hitting the fan. The only real question is whether or not he responds by tightening his grip on power, cracking down more, which means things are going to get worse before they get better, or whether or not his power is just going to collapse entirely because he loses legitimacy and just doesn't have enough power to maintain the hold that he has on the country. I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest, but given how badly he's doing, I think we're all going to find out soon.
I'm going to come.
Do not come.
Come.
Welcome to the Come Zone.
Come.